I want to go play blah blah blah. No man, don't go play that game. That game is dead. What? What the hell is a dead game? It appears that my age is starting to show with a lot of things these days, especially video games. So, with a modern video game release, we have a couple types of games. 4 types. Primarily single-player games, local multiplayer games, server-based multiplayer games, and live service models. Also known by the corporations as games as a service. Be warned, you're getting a game, sort of, but you're getting served. So when I started playing video games, and for a long time after, we had the first 2 types I mentioned. You either played a single-player game, or you sat on the floor or couch with other players and played multiplayer on the same screen. Or a little bit after that, at least on a local area network not connected to the internet. Yes, you could play video games before they were connected to the internet. They had to start somewhere. So in both of those first 2 cases, when a new game came out, whether it was topical or the latest and greatest thing, whatever the media or the game magazines said, you bought it, you played it, then people moved on. Some people, like me, we like to go back and play old games of yesterday because you know what? They were great. And they still are. During the Xbox, PlayStation 2, GameCube era was when online multiplayer was in its infancy. So live service models, which I believe also include MMORPGs, probably started with EverQuest in 1999, though the Stone Age of MMORPGs as text-based adventures was much, much earlier. When the era of MMORPGs came about with examples like World of Warcraft, Star Wars Galaxies, I got hooked by that motherfucker, Asheron's Call, Ultima Online, came a subscription-based model. You paid a certain amount of money per month to play the game that receives updates and brings together a community of players. If the game was really good and really popular and really addictive, like in Blizzard's case, they began making bank with subscription fees. It turned out to be very popular and a lucrative model for them. Like live service games, MMORPGs require a server. And I'm always going to take a pot shot at Bethesda at every chance I get because Bethesda fucked everything up. But to be fair, we gotta be fair, someone was gonna do this sort of thing sooner or later. Oblivion got a horse armor microtransaction that proved outrageously successful. The download birthed an entirely new and mostly, in my opinion, contemptible way to offer video games ways to win, called pay to win, and then all the other stupid horse shit that the industry came up with. Horse shit. So it was at this point, investors, most of whom have not done video games any kind of favor, decided that the idea of spending money to make a game and then seeing it wane in popularity over time was a bad idea. And the quickest way to do that was a single-player game. These greedy, money-hungry cocksuckers want your money at each and every opportunity that they can get. It was initially bad and got even worse. Companies would lock part of games behind a paywall, and this meant that after you bought the full game, you didn't have access to all of it and had to pay a fee to unlock the remainder of it? Fuck you. Live service games, which provide you a service instead of a game, and believe me, you're getting served. At least to these investors and dick shits made Epic, in a slightly different way with their launcher, that's a whole other subject for a whole other video, Activision, Blizzard, Electronic Arts, to name a few examples, notorious for being despicable. It got so bad that loot boxes were introduced and preyed upon gambling habits of people, and kids got involved, so multiple governments responded and put their foot down, but I'm sure the cocksuckers, and I mean all of them, including the government, don't give a damn. So the profits skyrocketed, but so did the backlash. Eventually, some live service games acquiesced to the demands of players, many of the live services in control of people who actually gave a fuck about the game industry and video games, began offering microtransactions for things such as, cosmetics or behind-the-scenes bonuses. I guess in that vein, microtransaction models are okay, as they're not as predatory as shit that EA has done. But make no mistake, investors and corporations don't give a fuck about you, us, the game industry, or anything other than profit and what they can get away with, no matter how morally questionable. So let's back out of the rabbit hole here for a moment. That's a live service model game. Now, the prevailing attitude today seems to be that anything that isn't popular anymore or supported is a dead game. The fuck are these cretins talking about? This is not going to get away from my analysis. Oh, no. Think for a second here. Let's put on our thinking caps. Let's define the word dead. So the American Heritage Dictionary defines dead as an adjective that means having lost a life, no longer alive. An inanimate object such as a video game cannot be considered dead or alive. It's not an organism, no matter how much you may metaphorically think it is. To say that a video game is alive or dead is like saying other inanimate objects, such as firearms or hammers, have innate qualities of good and evil and perform actions on their own. It's childish, it's stupid, and it's not true. In fact, it's fucking impossible. Except for Pistol Pete. So, by that logic, a game can't be dead. What people really mean is that a game is no longer supported or has lost a large portion of its community, regardless if it's a live service model or something else. That's not how video games work, especially single-player games and the older ones. You buy a game, you complete it, you might finish an expansion pack, they're known as DLCs these days, and then you move on to something else and possibly revisit the game later. The game can't be alive either. It's the opposite of dead. It isn't a physical living thing, no matter how much you want it to be. So, new or old then? Well, that's relative to what people think about it and the amount of time passed since the release of the game or a particular update or change to a game. So, Rob, what's all the hoopla over live service model games? Why are you so pissy about them? Because I'm disgusted by how the entire thing happened. Once a live service is taken offline, I suppose metaphorically you could call it a dead service. Then, for example, the cocksuckers at Blizzard decided to try and make a single-player game always online and convert them into a live service. There is no faster way that you can end up on my fucking shit list. Some MMORPGs are ran on private servers, which is technically illegal, but a lot of them are no longer available and not running, so no, you can't go back and you can't enjoy them. It doesn't make corporations or investors any money unless they hook some kind of a cocksucking scheme into it. Now, let's be honest, and let's be fair. There are some good live service games out there like Helldivers too. But, you know, I have a sour taste in my mouth about the whole thing, so I just don't bother. And you know what? That's my loss.